So, in other genocide news, Israel struck the Holy Family Catholic Church, which is the only Catholic church in Gaza. Um, I don't necessarily. This news article says from Reuters says it was a airstrike, but I've read recently that it was a tank round that hit the church, which is a lot more premeditated than an airstrike would be. You could definitely claim that it was more of an accident, but if you're on the ground aiming directly at like what is clearly a church with like crosses on it, and the domes of an Eastern Orthodox looking church or a style basilica.
Yeah, that's
Um,
harder to explain away. I mean, a
and
lot of
this is
people will do it anyways, but like I know that Meloni is upset about it.
So there were three civilians, two women and one man, and several others injured, including a parish priest, Father Gabriel Romanelli. And he's the one. This is the parish that Pope Francis used to call every day to make sure everything was okay during the past couple of years of genocide. The church is sheltering over 600 Palestinians, many of whom were children with disabilities, because that's one of the main things that the church does is take care of children with disabilities. So the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem condemned the attack, and Pope Leo the 13th, 14th, Pope Leo the 14th, Pope Leo the 13th is dead. Pope Leo the 14th expressed deep sorrow and called for an immediate ceasefire and lasting peace. Quote. In other Israel killing Christians news, I mean, it Israel continues to kill Muslim Palestinians on a regular basis. There's nothing new about that. They continue to to snipe and strike civilians queuing for aid, and while that's going on, they're also attacking Christians, and this is actually causing the West to start paying attention again, including people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, and several other right-wing voices who have, to their own credit, been calling this a genocide for quite some time now and condemning it because they're killing civilians in general, but because of the heightened profile of this church specifically, and the last remaining village in the West Bank being attacked by settlers, the West is like beginning to pay even more attention, and that's something that really resonates with right-wing Americans is Christians being killed, because what
Yeah,
they love to pretend to care about Christian persecution. So the MAGA movement, like the core of the MAGA movement, has been less and less pro-Israel, and in fact, even general regular conservatives in the United States that are under the age of 35 tend to skew anti-Israel for all the reasons that you might if you were a MAGA isolationist type.
right. I mean, not even all the reasons you might if you were like a humanitarian or like a social justice person or whatever. Just all the reasons if you might if you were just not making a lot of money off of it.
Right. I mean, there are clearly some of these people are moved by humanitarian reasons, but I think that the main reason behind it are issues of national interest. And there is clearly no national interest. There's nothing to be gained by America's support for Israel.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna quibble with that at all. I'm very fine if that's the reason why people oppose
Yeah.
this.
So we talked about Taibe as a target of settler violence in the West Bank last week. There were several arson attacks, but they've also, again, in the week since then, fired on farmers. And recently, there was an attack that killed 117 sheep, and they stole a bunch more, causing the U.S. State Department to condemn the settler violence, the Holy See to condemn the settler violence, and to visit Tibet to assess the damage and offer support. And this is a Eastern Orthodox village, not a Catholic one. And then 30 nations to condemn the attack. So Israel is managing to become even more of a pariah state than they already are.
It's like they're trying to test how isolated could we be and still be totally able to act with impunity.
And that leads us to Spain and Ireland leading a push to recognize Palestine and the meeting of the so-called Hague Group, which started off as a bloc of 8 countries in 2025 that pushed for legal accountability for Israel, and has now ballooned to 30 countries. And they will be meeting right now, actually. Nope. Actually, they just met. Sorry.
Yeah,
I put this in my notes last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Bogota, Colombia. And the South African foreign minister has said, quote, "No nation is above the law," and that the conference will focus on coordinating diplomatic and legal action against Israel. So I have stuff that had already happened.
Right. I cannot hear Bogota, Colombia without being a little bit kind of grooving a little bit, you know?
Oh, because of that song from
that super
middle
awesome
school?
song. Yeah.
It was Bogota, Colombia, Caracas, Venezuela.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. You see, I never had a cool song. I just had like a rote memorization on a map and having to do it over and over and over again until I got it.
Yeah, I wonder which way is better.
Well, obviously the song, because you remember the song still. I still remember all of the capitals and countries and capitals of most of the countries in the world from elementary school, but a lot has changed since then. I remember like learning all of the countries in Europe, and I could point them all out and tell you their names and capitals. And then the Berlin Wall fell and Yugoslavia fractured. And then there's all of a sudden a whole bunch of new damn little countries that I had to learn. It took me a while to learn those. I didn't learn them until I was an adult. Okay, so in other help Israel become even more of a pariah state news, a 20-year-old Palestinian American from Tampa, Florida, was beaten to death by Israeli settlers north of Ramallah. He was visiting family there, and he was attacked by settlers who beat him and then blocked medical aid, and he died. A second man was shot nearby. He wasn't an American citizen, and he also died. So the family, who are American citizens, demanded U.S. government intervention, and over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed during settler-related violence since October of 2023. And it just so happened that one of them happened to be an American citizen. And the State Department expressed concerns and told Israel to launch a criminal investigation. So that, of course, will...
Yeah, that should cover it. That
should take care of absolutely nothing. But yeah, so Israel is in trouble because of the Ultra-Orthodox stuff and is a pariah state, and there are more and more countries that are signing on to the recognition of Palestine. And Netanyahu's in trouble. And he keeps doing stuff like bombing Syria or bombing Iran in order to try to push off the inevitable. But it's eventually going to catch up with him. Oh yeah, and he bombed Syria recently. There were airstrikes on the Syrian army headquarters in Damascus. And al-Shara has said that Israel is a destabilizing presence. Al-Shara, who is previously al-Jilani, says that Israel is a destabilizing presence in the Middle East and that he refuses to normalize relationships with them. I saw some sources say ever, and other sources say until they stopped destabilizing the Middle East. So, ever.
So that's just ever.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's a very roundabout way of saying the same thing.
Now, the reason that Israel has struck the Syrian military was supposedly because of attacks on the Druze and Alawites, which fucking, yeah, whatever, bro. Like, I don't believe that for a second. I do believe that al-Shara's forces are that the Al Qaeda in Syria's forces are persecuting Druze and Alawites and Christians, because we see evidence of that every single day.
Well, yeah, including just video of it.
Right, and the idea that Israel cares is, however, another thing altogether.
Yeah.
So, an SVU chief was assassinated in Kiev. Colonel Ivan Voronich, who was a senior member of the Ukraine Security Services, was shot in broad daylight in Kiev with a silenced pistol. The style of shooting suggests a professional assassination. Everyone immediately thought that this must be a Russian hit. It has to be FSB linked. And Ukraine initially tried to play it down, but I think that they're kind of admitting now that they got by the Russians. And so this indicates that the Russians are probably getting involved in something that they're actually really good at, which is political assassination, subversion, and dirty war in general.
Yeah.
Previously, Russians were trying to self-proclaimedly, trying to win this on the battlefield without having to resort to, quote, anti-terror tactics. But I think several bloggers and analysts noticed a shift in Putin's rhetoric after the bombing of the civilian trains and the strategic bombers earlier in the month. They noticed a shift in his rhetoric about it being possibly also reclassified from just a special military operation to a special military operation and an anti-terror operation. So if it is reclassified to an anti-terror operation, then there are a number of legal avenues open up for assassination, subversion, sabotage, stuff like that. So Russia hasn't been assassinating Ukrainian officials this entire time. Very easily could have.
That's one of the things about the way that it's talked about, which has always baffled me. It's like people don't seem to appreciate that the categorization, the formal terminology being used actually has an effect. Like, it's not a full-scale invasion. It's not a whole bunch of things, which means that there are legal parameters.
Yes, and Russia is a very legalistic country. Putin is a lawyer by training, and everything that Putin has done has been through changes and manipulations of the Constitution in a very straightforwardly legal way, and everything that Russia does is done in that manner. So it would make sense if this is being reclassified formally, legally, as a different kind of operation in order for this sort of thing to happen. But anyway, so this Ivan Voronich was responsible for several assassinations going all the way back to the 2014 suppression of the uprising in the Donbass. He was responsible for the assassination of several leaders of the separatist militias. The ones that the West told us was the Russians trying to clean things up. It turns out it was the SBU that did it.
Huh.
And it, just like everything else about Ukraine, they're lying about it.